Welcome back to another episode of Morning Coffee. I'm your host, Rick Alexander. You guys can interact with me or follow me at @RickAlexander_ or at the Morning Coffee Podcast on Instagram. Now, if you're getting a lot from this show, if it's changing your life or even changing the way that you look at your life, it would mean the world to me if you would head to iTunes and give us a 5-star review so that we can continue to climb the charts and get this information to more and more people. Over the last year and a half, I've focused my work on the story that we tell ourselves about our lives. Your entire life is a bit of a story that you're telling yourself. And if you could tell yourself a different story, you could probably change your life quite a bit. And so I did that work for the release of my newest book, which is coming out in early 2020. But getting excited for that release, I actually wanted to go through a lot of the information that I had learned, a lot of my notes, and synthesize it into maxims, which is what we're getting into today. I've got 21 maxims to maximize your life, and what these are is just things that seem to be true about the human experience. And if you could understand how they are true, you could understand how they could change your life. And so if you go to rickalexander.com, what you're going to find is if you click on articles, the maxim of the day is going to be posted, whatever the last maxim was, and it's also going to have journal entries and thought experiments in there so that you can figure out how to apply these things to your own lives. And so a bit of an interactive experience. So throughout the next year, through my speaking, through my book release, and through these maxims, I'm excited to see how this information can really change the world and change your world if you give it an opportunity to. I often say that we make our choices until our choices make us. And so what you realize is that your life is just the culmination of all of the choices that you've made. And so if you don't like your life, if you don't like where it is right now, then you realize, well, then what you actually need is to make new choices. And in the 21st century, your ability to make choices is not getting any easier, right? It's actually, there's far more options presented for everything, because as we get more freedom, as entrepreneurialism and capitalism continue to grow, we're only going to be offered more and more options for everything that we want. And so then what the quality of our lives is subjected to is our ability to dance between all of the different decisions that we're going to have to make, and to keep making them in a way that allows us to keep going forward. You think about every decision as a pivot point, and you want to make sure that you're pivoting toward your North Star, whatever success looks like for you. And so you have to figure out how to make all of these decisions, one, using as little time as possible, because when you get stuck in indecision, it can be a really terrible, debilitating thing. And then also you want to learn how to make all of these decisions without it requiring everything of you every single time you have to make a decision, right? Because that's the real problem, is we are constantly facing all of these other choices. And if we lose the ability to make choices rather quickly, then we just feel like we're stuck and we're not moving toward whatever it is, again, our North Star, whatever our success is in this life, whatever that means for you. And so making the right choices as a human being and keeping yourself going in the direction that you want to go is actually far more of an art. There's subtleties to it because it's a combination of subjective and objective experience, and I want to talk about that. So first of all, there's some things that I say quite a bit on here that you, again, are presuppositions for this show, and so you can't really take them for granted. And so some of them are values are the one thing that we can scientifically say gives us a sense of meaning in our lives, right? And so when we say meaning, what meaning is subjective psychological experience. And so something that means something to you might not mean anything to anyone else, which is why your values have to be intrinsic and they can't be like other people's values. Again, I know I go over this stuff, but it's important that you understand it for the context of this show. Because when it comes to making difficult decisions, you want to have a familiarity with your values so that you can recognize how they're going to be lived out in the different decisions you make. Because if you want to ensure that you're making the right decision, then what you actually need to do is pivot toward your own value set. Right? And so thus what you actually want to do is objectify, i.e. take out emotion out of the equation when it comes to giving yourself what you want. So your values are what you want, but often we have a narrative in our head about something that doesn't allow us to actually live it out. Maybe we value agency over our lives, the ability to take control over our own lives or ownership in some way. But we're so used to allowing one of our parents to dictate what's right and wrong in life through their need for validation that we actually give up agency. We hand our agency over to somebody else through the need of validation. And so although our values are subjective and the places that we're going to pivot to in our choices are all subjective, i.e. exactly like what do we want in this situation, it's important that we objectify our ability to make a subjective decision, i.e. take emotion out of it, because you want to look at your value set and you want to pivot toward it without being pulled in by the narrative that some emotion is causing. Like I just said, like perhaps you actually value agency over your own life, and that value is never able to be manifested in your own life because you're not being objective to your own decisions. You are leaving this desire for validation in place, and because of that, you're not able to effectively pivot to where you want to go. If validation causes you to live differently from your own intrinsic values, then you're living smaller than you have to and allowing your temporary emotions to stand in the way of what you want. And that's what's actually happening here. And so making the right choices is about objectifying this subjective world that's going on in your head. And so if you consider decisions that you need to make, perhaps the path to the highest good or the path to the most authenticity for you is at odds with some sort of emotional narrative that you've been telling yourself. Understand that this will never change if you don't. In many cases, it's a matter of pulling ourselves out of the roles that we're currently in or have known. But in any case, it's important to remember that not every decision you make says something about someone else. And I think when it comes to our ability to make choices, if we want to objectify our subjective experience, meaning figure out what choices we need to make to give ourselves ultimate meaning, but then objectify our own emotion to everything else, right? To the things that we're not making, then you do have to understand that every decision you make does not say something about someone else. It could just be that that's what you need right now to feel centered. Remember, boundaries preserve wholeness. And so what it might be is that you just actually need to make choices to preserve your own wholeness. That doesn't actually come at the cost of someone else. Now, if someone else is used to being able to validate your decisions, it will feel as if it is, right? It will feel as if it's personal toward them in some way. It's important that you relate the fact that it's actually not. And that's why I said it's so important to pull yourself out of your roles, something that's come up in my content over the last 6 months quite a bit, because you do have to pull yourself out of your roles if you want to be able to make clear decisions. And your ability to make clear decisions is directly related to your quality of life, right? To whether or not you actually get to where you're going, because every day, in every moment, you're just confronted with decision, and you'll get decision fatigue after a while, and you'll just make bullshit decisions if you don't have some way of objectifying this subjective experience. If everything you do says something about you and someone else, it becomes this emotional entanglement that's really hard to move through in your lives. It's like, fuck, damned if I do, damned if I don't. So it can't be that way. That's clearly not a recipe for success. And so this is also why we have to figure out, we have to understand what it is that we need in order to feel centered or to feel good about our lives and what we're doing. This is subjective because obviously we don't all need the same thing in order to feel good about ourselves. But the quicker you can figure out what your needs are and really identify them and stand in them, and don't be so bashful about them, and don't think that in order for you to uphold your own needs, you're taking from someone else, because that's just not true. Remember, you're responsible for you. You're responsible for giving yourself exactly what you need, no more and no less. And the quicker you can learn how to use your voice and stand up for all of these different needs, the quicker you're able to make good, effective decision making. And I would say if there's one skill that you want to improve in your life to help you get where you want, it's to learn how to make good, effective decisions. Because a lot of times we'll make decisions, but they're not effective. And the reason they're not effective is we haven't fully committed to the path we're going down. And so because we haven't fully committed, part of us are still back at the fork in the road. And then you get back to this question, which is how good your life could be. How good could your life be if you were good, right? If you were better, if you reclaimed that part of yourself and you weren't dealing with this decision. Make your decisions, but then allow that directness to be the thing that architects your life. Allow the decisions you make to be the decisions you make. Not everything can be in question, and if it is, it'll be really hard to move forward in your life. It'll be really hard to create some modicum of success, because you'll always be dealing with what you could have done differently or what you could have done better. There comes a point where that will always be true. There'll always be things you could do differently or better, but at some point you just got to learn to make decisions, learn from your mistakes if you made any, and then just continue on. Often when we say yes or no to people, we have a hard time standing on that decision or even using our voice to vocalize it. The truth is that sometimes we have to say no in order to protect our bandwidth, not because we don't want to hang out with someone, but just because that's what our life is calling for at the moment. And so then the question to ask yourself is, where could you rescue more of your bandwidth back by making different decisions, right? And then if you can turn those decisions, if you can make a different decision, you can turn that into a boundary, if you can turn that into a standard for your life, then it's not a decision you have to wrestle with anymore. And that's where you can really make your money, because that's what's going to free you up to focus on what you actually want to be focused on. You know, we have all of these things we want to do in the world, and a lot of times we don't get them because we're stuck at the crossroads of indecision for far too long, and we're not able to step forward into reality with some assuredness or some confidence. And so learn how to objectify all this little subjectivity in your life. Take choices you're always making and create boundaries out of them. Free yourself up so that you can actually focus on what you want to focus on in this life, and you're not constantly at the behest of other people's emergency or what other people need from you, or you're not constantly worried about letting people down based on the decisions that you're making. If you can do that, it will free up tons of bandwidth and tons of moments in your own life to step forward. So anyway, I love you guys. Hope you have an amazing day. We'll talk tomorrow on Morning Coffee.